If you want a band 7 or higher in IELTS speaking, you need to use less common vocabulary. In this lesson, I'm going to show you 10 words you can use to increase your vocabulary score in the IELTS speaking test. For each word, we're going to look at the meaning, synonyms, collocations, and example sentences, so you know exactly how to use it in your own speaking. But before we get started, if you're not sure how to prepare for IELTS, make sure you check out our complete preparation course. It's taught by me, an IELTS examiner, and I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do to get a band 7 plus in all 4 parts. The link is in the description. All right, let's start with the first word for today, which is prevalent. Prevalent is an adjective, and it means something that is very common or widespread at a certain time or place. So it's just talking about something that is everywhere. Synonyms: common, widespread, or frequent. Collocations: prevalent belief, so a belief that is everywhere. Prevalent issue, an issue that is very common. Prevalent problem. So here are some examples. It's quite prevalent for young people to study abroad because many families see it as a way to improve future job opportunities. So this simply means that it's very common for young people to study abroad. One of the most prevalent problems in big cities today is air pollution, which seriously affects people's health. So again, we're talking about a problem which is very common, a problem that is everywhere. So prevalent is a great professional word to use to talk about something that is everywhere or in a lot of places. Let's move on to word number 2 now, which is constructive. Constructive is also an adjective, and it means helpful, positive, or useful for making something better. Synonyms: helpful, positive, beneficial. Collocations: constructive criticism or feedback. So this simply means words or advice that are helpful. Constructive discussion, so a discussion that is positive, a discussion that had a good outcome, something good came out of it or came from it. Examples: I really liked my professor because he gave us constructive feedback, which really helped to show me where I was going wrong. So this means the professor gave some advice or some words that were very useful or helpful. In the workplace, it is essential to have constructive discussion rather than simply pointing out problems. You can use constructive to talk about how you use your time as well. So if you do some study and you learn something, well, you can say, I used my time constructively. Let's move on to the next one now, which is overwhelming. Overwhelming is also an adjective, and it means very strong or powerful, or just difficult to deal with because it's too much. And that's normally the most common use of overwhelming. You use it to talk about something that's too much. So yeah, synonyms: too much or intense. Collocations: overwhelming majority. So overwhelming majority means much more than 50%. Overwhelming feeling. Well, this means a feeling that's really strong. It's really difficult to deal with because it's too much. So here are some examples. When I first moved to another country, I felt an overwhelming sense of loneliness because everything was unfamiliar. So overwhelming sense of loneliness, well, that just means the loneliness was very, very strong. Students often face overwhelming pressure during exam times, and this can affect their mental health. Well, overwhelming pressure, that's talking about pressure that might be difficult to deal with, and maybe it's just too much. There's too much pressure for students to handle. And one more example: the amount of work was overwhelming and I didn't know where to start. So this just means there was so much work and the person didn't know how to deal with it. So overwhelming is a great word to describe emotions or situations where it's just too much that it's hard to deal with or manage. Let's move on to word number 4, which is setback. Setback is a noun, and it means a problem or a difficulty that makes progress or moving forward harder or take longer. Synonyms: difficulty, obstacle, problem. Collocations: major setback. So that means a very big setback, a big problem. Minor setback, a small problem. To suffer a setback, that means to have a problem. To overcome a setback, that means to get past a problem or to fix a problem. So many businesses faced serious setbacks during the pandemic, but some managed to recover quickly. So this simply means that the businesses had problems and it made moving forward harder. I believe that setbacks are a normal part of life and they often teach us valuable lessons. So this person's saying that I simply believe that problems are a normal part of life. Now, when you think about the word setback, think about it as something that pushes you back. You know, you're trying to do something, you're trying to go forward, but a setback is pushing you back and makes it take longer. Let's move on to the fifth word now, which is implement. Implement is a verb and it means to start using a plan, system, or rule. Synonyms: start, make happen, apply. Collocations: implement a plan. Well, this simply means to start using a plan. Implement a policy, same thing. Implement changes, same thing. To start using these changes. The government should implement stricter laws to reduce air pollution in major cities. Well, this is saying that the government should start using stricter laws. Many schools are now implementing new teaching methods to keep up to date with the newest AI advancements. So this is saying that schools are now starting to use new teaching methods. So implement is a great word you can use, especially in part 3 speaking. If you want to say that, governments or other organizations should start using certain policies or rules. Let's move on now to number 6, which is mitigate. Mitigate is also a verb, which means to make something less bad, serious, or harmful. Synonyms: reduce, lessen, ease. Collocations: mitigate the effects. So this means if there are bad effects, to make the effects less bad. Steps to mitigate. Well, this means steps to make something less bad. And finally, mitigate a problem. Well, again, that means to make a problem less bad. So here's an example. Maybe you get a question about climate change, and you could say something like, yes, climate change is a big issue, and I think governments need to introduce new policies to mitigate the effects, so to make these effects less bad. In order to mitigate the negative impact of the increasing number of cars on the road, city planners should invest in more public transport. So we've got some negative effects or negative consequences, and we're trying to reduce those things and just make them less bad. Now, please note that when we're using mitigate, we normally need to use it with negative situations like a problem. We normally don't use it with positive things. Let's move on now to word number 7, which is scarce. And scarce is an adjective, which means not enough of something. So something that is in short supply. Synonyms: not enough, limited, insufficient. Collocations: food or water is scarce. So if food is scarce, that means there's not enough food. And today in 2025, we're very lucky because most of the time food is not scarce and we have a lot of food. To become scarce. Well, if something becomes scarce, that means now there's not a lot or not enough of something. Scarce resources, same thing, not enough of those resources or those things. So let's have a look at some examples. Skilled workers are scarce in many industries, which is why employers are willing to pay high salaries. So that means there's not enough of these skilled workers. Natural resources such as coal and oil are becoming increasingly scarce due to overconsumption. So that means that coal and oil, they're becoming not enough. Right now, maybe there's enough, but they're becoming not enough. Soon, there might not be enough. So scarce is a great word you can use when you want to say there's not enough of something, but it's normally used to talk about things like food or water or resources. Now let's move on to the opposite of scarce, which is abundant. Abundant is also an adjective, and it means more than enough, large amounts of something. Synonyms: lots of, plenty. Collocations: abundant resources. So this means more than enough resources. Abundant opportunities, same thing, more than enough. Abundant supply of something. So that means more than enough of that thing. For example, students today have abundant access to information through the internet and online learning platforms. So this means they have more than enough access, large amounts of access to information. Things are changing now, and thanks to technology, there are abundant opportunities for people to work remotely. So if you want to work online, that means there are more than enough opportunities. So abundant is a great word to talk about when there is a lot of something, a lot more than enough. Let's move on to word 9 now, which is alleviate. Alleviate is a verb which means to make something less bad, serious, or painful. So synonyms are reduce, lessen, and ease. Collocations: alleviate pain, so reduce the amount of pain. Alleviate stress, same thing, less stress, reduce the stress. And alleviate poverty, same thing, make poverty less bad. Examples: well, I would recommend that students meditate and do exercise. These things can help alleviate stress or reduce stress for students who are preparing for exams. Government should invest more in public transport to alleviate traffic congestion in big cities. So alleviate traffic congestion means to reduce the amount of traffic congestion. So alleviate is a very professional word you can use to talk about reducing something bad. And it's often used to talk about things like, stress and traffic congestion. Let's move on to the next word now, which is influence. Influence is a verb which means to have an effect on someone's thoughts, decisions, or behavior. Synonyms: affect or change. Collocations: influence, opinion. So if you influence someone's opinion, that means you have an effect on their opinion. Influence behavior, same thing. To greatly influence, that means you have a big effect on someone's thoughts or decisions or behavior. Examples: parents can strongly influence their children's career choices with their advice, even though the children may not be interested in that career path. So this simply means that parents can have a really big effect on what their children choose as a job in the future. Social media has begun to strongly influence what people believe about everyday issues. So that simply means that social media is now affecting what people believe about everyday issues or everyday topics. Now, please note that with influence, it can be positive or negative. So you can influence someone in a good way or a bad way. They were 10 words for a higher band in speaking. If you want to learn 10 more, check out this video right here. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the lesson and see you next time.